Okay, we're going to talk about using the pedestal grinders over in the Tyler Metal Shop. First thing to think about here is some basic safety rules. So face shield is required, and if you notice, we have a couple other notices here. These get loud, so you're going to want to wear some hearing protection, and there's another face shield reminder there. I also recommend wearing safety glasses underneath your face shield. Face shield is additional protection. Eye protection should be your first order of business, and then the face shield protects your face. So, and then here's some over-the-ear protection. You can also get earplugs and things like that. The dust collection system is hooked up to these two grinders, so make sure that it is on when you are using them. And we never want to wear any gloves when working with these guys, so bare hands only. You don't want to get the glove caught into the equipment. And so as your parts get hot, we've got these little quench buckets down on the bottom here. These safety requirements are reminded to you over here on this little notice. And so you've got a face shield required, wear long pants. You don't want to wear any gloves because it could get caught in the moving parts. No open-toed shoes. Make sure you're wearing some good sturdy work boots are preferred. Wear hearing protection, generates a lot of loud noise, and then dust. So have the dust collection system on. And if you're cleared to, or if you want to wear a voluntary dust mask, you can do that too. We have two of these pedestal grinders. This one's a little bit beefier, and then notice the wheels are a little bit different. So on this one, it has a more coarse texture, and so that guy's good for aggressive material removal. This one's a little finer, and this one's good for slightly finer work. But these are, by nature, fairly rough work machines. You're not going to get any kind of super precision results. The smaller machine here has another sort of medium to fine grit grinding wheel here, and then on this side we have a wire wheel, which is good for cleaning up any welds or cleaning up some bar stock or material before welding. So you really want to make sure that you're wearing some protection though when you're using this guy, because he can get a little dicey. And in certain applications you might want to be wearing gloves on this one, but you know, it's sort of a squishy territory. So that's the wire wheel. It shoots out these little fine bits of wire, and so you really want to protect yourself. I like to wear one of these cotton welding shirts. They've got a tight weave, and they protect you from a few of those incidental sparks. So that's a good idea. You can wear leathers too. Just make sure that you don't have any loose clothing or anything like that, or jewelry or bracelets that could, or rings that can get you caught up in there. So that goes with any part here. So let's talk a little bit about some of the basic safety tenets of these. You'll notice that there are these clear protectors on here, so that's like in addition, yet again, in addition to your eye protection. You've got those between you and the work. If they get fogged up or, you know, really difficult to look through, just talk to our shop technician and we'll get those replaced with better ones, and he'll adjust them too as needed. Just don't use any equipment that's damaged or not, you know, working properly. I'm going to swing this up just a little bit so that you guys can see, and then maybe lower the angle, and we'll talk a little bit about how to properly grind some parts on here. So the most common thing is somebody's just kind of taken a gnarly piece of material from the scrap bin or from the forge or what have you, and they want to prepare the end for welding or just, you know, change the shape of it somehow. We have these little rests here. Make sure that the rest is pretty tight up against the wheel, but you don't want it touching, obviously. If it's way out there, just ask our tech and we'll get it adjusted. And you want to always have that material resting on here as you're grinding along. And as you grind, you want to keep that part moving along the face of the wheel. You never want to wear a groove into the wheel. And you never ever grind on the side of the wheel. That's really dangerous. If you wear a groove on the side of the wheel, that makes that wheel a weak spot in it, and they move very fast. Large chunks of this wheel can explode and fly off of this thing and hit you, and that can be super dangerous. So that's why we never ever grind on the side of the wheel. So you never want to have a groove worn in on the side of that grinding wheel. So always on the surface of these wheels. Also, we never use we never grind aluminum on these, so or copper or anything that has a lower melting point than steel does. So these are for ferrous-based metal. Steel, stainless steel is fine. Even tool steel is fine because it's like a stone wheel. It's not going to dull like some of those other ones. But aluminum or copper or anything that a magnet does not stick to, that's a good rule of thumb, you're not going to want to grind onto here. The reason why is if you try and grind aluminum, it'll work really well initially, but then you'll coat the surface of this wheel with molten aluminum. That will heat up. You'll just generate a lot of friction and heat there, and that too can cause the outer surface of the wheel to expand and then also break apart on you, again making a really dangerous situation. So you don't want to grind anything other than steel or stainless steel on these. The wire brush is a carbon steel brush, so if you did want to use something other than steel, that's fine. Sometimes people will use it to clean up some light rust. Just be aware that this guy can kind of catch a lot easier. So if you're brushing up something with sharp corners or edges on it, or like a piece of tube here, if you have it angled up in a funny way, it might draw you in. So we have another rule very similar to all the other stationary equipment, which is nothing smaller than 3 inches. So this guy's slightly larger than 3 inches, so we can safely kind of work along there. But if it is smaller than 3 inches, you've got 2 options on any of these grinders, these pedestal grinders, and you don't use them. What you do is you bring that small part over to, and this was mentioned in the disc sander video, you can bring it over to a work surface and clamp it down, and then while it's clamped down, you can bring an angle grinder, and there's tons of different wheels. You can put a wire wheel on this, you could put a hard wheel on this, or sanding discs, all kinds of things that you can grind. Or if it's just some light work, you can also use a file. And if your part doesn't clamp down to the table easily enough, you can also clamp it in one of these table vices and use the same equipment. So make sure that your part is, when it's too small, is clamped into a secure area, either a vise or onto the table, before you go trying to grind away on and get your fingers too close to these machines. So that's a critical thing too. So another thing to think about too is if your piece is too large, same kind of rule applies. You won't be able to support a really large item and hold it near this relatively small working area. So don't bring anything too big and don't bring anything too small over here. It's really just objects that can be held, easily in your hands. And the same general rules apply over to this other guy here. So we have that similar rest. You can pop these little quench buckets out and fill them with water as needed, and work with them safely. So you've got your protective clear shield here and your tool rest here. So just always keep that part moving safely along. So maybe we'll do a little bit of grinding here and give you an idea what this sort of looks like. And then maybe I'll even switch over to the wire wheel for a bit. Here's your on switch on this one. On the other guy, there's just a button on the top of it. And so we'll flip this guy on. Better angle here, and if we want to do a little grinding, always keep it moving. You can rotate it around, and get a good result. Okay, so there's your basic grinding situation, and then maybe we wanted to try a little bit of wire wheel work. So maybe just to brighten up the end of a piece of material before welding or something like that, we might come over here and just ease into it. Always let the machine do the work. You don't need to kind of really lean into it. You're just going to make situations a little more dangerous for yourself, and that'll be fine. Like there. So now we've got, a little brightened up area ready for welding. Or brightened up after welding if you really want to too. So that's the basic gist of the equipment here. And remember, we do have that quench bucket as things get too hot to handle. And always make sure that you're working safely on here. Never tilt your parts, never grind on the side of the wheel. always make sure it's supported securely on that rest, and make sure that you don't walk away before these things spin down. If you have a little piece of scrap, and you're concerned, you got to make adjustments or something, just grab that scrap and safely bring it to a stop. Otherwise, just work safely, wear that face shield, and be real careful. All right. If you have any questions, always ask your technician, ask your teacher, and if you notice anything damaged or broken or out of alignment, just talk to the technician as well. Don't go use any equipment that you're not cleared on, and work safely. All right.